Part 107. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1061. Forget it, it's not just one or two attempts to commit suicide anyway. The second master hasn't opened the door yet, so he should break the pot and smash it. At the end of the first chorus, Lu Wenzhou's face was already livid. Song Yuchen did not shy away from any words of praise. In his writing, Zhou Tao was like a princess wearing glass slippers who got off the pumpkin carriage. She was separated from the mundane world and beautiful. Yes, spotless. This man is so good at writing lyrics that any young girl who hears it will be intoxicated by such beautiful words. But it was different in Lu Wenzhou's ears. Every word felt like a nail, pricking blood in his heart. When the next chorus was about to start again, he finally made a voice, "Have you heard enough?" Wang Hui quickly turned off the radio and whispered, "I thought you wanted to listen to music." Lu Wenzhou said indifferently, "Next time you make your own decisions, just get out of here." Wang Hui nodded quickly, "Yes." Lu Wenzhou took out his mobile phone. He also used WeChat. His friends were the same group of friends he had grown up with since childhood, both male and female. When he opened his circle of friends and looked at them, his eyesight was filled with darkness. Because many people shared this song. Even his brother shared this song in his circle of friends. Lu Su shared that it was because after all, the song was written for Zhou Tao, and Zhou Tao's TV was broadcasting, and he belonged to the same company, so of course he did his best to help her become popular. He was also big-hearted and didn't care what his second brother thought. Back at the mansion, Lu Wenzhou called Lu Su. Lu Sukai patted his forehead and said he didn't think much about it. What can Lu Wenzhou say? After all, he was helping Zhou Tao promote his popularity. He could only swallow his anger and asked again, "Have you found a suitable script for her to act in?" "Lu Su, I found one that talked about school bullying. The heroine was bullied and bullied. It was quite sad and miserable. Is there a male protagonist?" "Of course. Between the hero and her." Lu Su understood, "There is no kissing scene, don't worry, because the actor is a high school student and he is 18 years old, so it is not appropriate to have a kissing scene." Lu Wenzhou, "Then give the script to Wen Qiao and let her read it. The heroine will be Zhou Tao." "Okay, make arrangements immediately." After hanging up the phone, Lu Wenzhou sat in the huge room and turned on the TV. What a coincidence, entertainment news was playing on it. The song was all-pervasive and introduced the inspiration for Song Yuchen's lyrics. When he heard Song Yuchen say without hesitation that his inspiration came from Zhou Tao, he felt a little envious for a moment. "I envy him for being able to express his love with his mouth. He once had such an opportunity." Song Yuchen's interview continued, and the female host asked him with a smile, "I heard that the MV wants to invite Zhou Tao to shoot. Do you have such an idea?" "Indeed, I think she is the most suitable. If she can agree, I will be very happy." He talked about his thoughts without any distractions and smiled heartily. The fondness and persistence in his eyes hurt Lu Wenzhou's eyes, and he hurriedly turned off the TV. But even if he turned off the TV, news would still pour into his ears from all directions. In order to divert his attention, he specially invited his friends to eat out. During the meal, he could still hear the waiter talking about this matter. In the narrow aisle, two young waiters looked excited. "Did you look at Weibo just now? Song Yuchen is so brave. He directly invited her to be the heroine of the music video on Weibo, Aizhudao. He's so brave. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1062. The lyrics were well written, and he sang very affectionately. Even his big fans said that he was truly affectionate this time. "I really envy Zhou Tao." Lu Wenzhou felt a little headache. The moment he entered the private room, he heard the waiter say, "Zhou Tao posted on Weibo." The door closed, and his friends looked at him with smiles. "I'm late, so I'll punish myself with a drink first." Lu Wenzhou was in a daze, and all he could hear was the sentence he just heard, "Zhou Tao posted on Weibo." What did she post on Weibo? He wanted to know. After sitting down, my friend poured me a glass of wine, and the bitter taste flowed freely in my mouth. He took out his phone and was about to unlock it with his fingerprint when his friend on the side quickly snatched it away. "Why are you looking at your phone while eating? There are too many people with low heads nowadays. Lu, you can't look at your phone." The mobile phone was placed in the center of the round plate on the dinner table, with several mobile phones lying on it. "We have agreed that for today's meal, whoever takes the phone first will pay for it. The wines being sold today are all the most expensive, with a bottle costing 20,000 yuan, and all the dishes are flown in from abroad. A meal that costs hundreds of thousands is impossible." Lu Wenzhou sat on the chair, eating the food mechanically, drinking wine, listening to everyone chatting and joking, his head a little empty. Suddenly someone came over to propose a toast. "Second young master, what's wrong? You look so lost. Is there something wrong?" Lu Wenzhou said calmly, "Nothing, just bring my phone over. I'll pay for today's meal." After all, he couldn't wait any longer. He really wanted to know what Zhou Tao had posted on Weibo. His friend took his phone over, and the page suddenly lit up. He clicked on Weibo, and the only person he followed on his account was Zhou Tao. Clicking on it was the Weibo she had posted 15 minutes ago, and she forwarded Song Yuchen's Weibo with the words, "My pleasure. It's my honor that she agreed to shoot the MV." His heart suddenly fell to the bottom. He dropped his hand, failed to hold the phone firmly, and fell to the floor. On the marble floor, the phone screen fell and cracked. Friends on both sides hurriedly went down to pick up his mobile phone. "Ah, Lu, the mobile phone is broken." Lu Wenzhou only felt that his throat was a little dry, and he was speechless for a moment. After a while, he said, "If you drop it, just drop it. Let's eat." He poured himself a glass of red wine and drank it in one gulp. The atmosphere at the table turned cold. The few people who were chatting and laughing could see that the second young master's face turned cold and he seemed to be in a bad mood. Everyone asked tentatively, "Did something happen at home?" Lu Wenzhou's face was extremely gloomy. He didn't say anything and just drank. Everyone felt that something must have happened at home. A few of his friends knew that he was married, but only a few knew that his wife was Zhou Tao, such as Tang Lin next to him, the one who introduced him to the blind date. But before coming in for dinner, Zhou Tao hadn't posted on Weibo yet, so she didn't know why the person next to her suddenly lost her temper. Tang Lin felt something was wrong, so while Lu Wenzhou was drinking, he clicked on his phone and took a look. Hashtag Zhou Tao Song Yuchen MV hashtag was on the hot search list, and it was currently ranked 5th on the hot search list. If you click on it again, it will be promoted to 3rd place. Tang Lin understood that the person next to him was depressed about his ex-wife. He didn't know what to say for a moment. He almost knew everything about what happened between the two of them. He was the one who helped Zhou Tao clear the sewer in the past. The man next to him had indeed been sorry to her before. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1063. Now that people are divorced and have the freedom to pursue happiness, Lu Wenzhou really has nothing to say. That position is no longer available. He leaned over and whispered, "Drink less. You haven't even eaten yet. Just drinking will hurt your stomach." Lu Wenzhou ignored it and drank several drinks in succession. Tang Lin sighed lightly. When the dinner ended, It was already 10 o'clock in the evening. He was helped into the car by Tang Lin and Wang Hui. His steps were already sloppy and his eyes were a little blurry. It was raining lightly outside, and his hair was a little wet from the light rain. Wang Hui got into the car, took out 2 tissues and handed them over. He saw that the person in the back seat had his eyes slightly closed, as if he was asleep, so he retracted his hand. The car engine started and slowly entered the main road. Lu Wenzhou suddenly said, "Go to her neighborhood." Although he didn't say the name, Wang Hui knew who his second master was talking about, so he asked the driver to drive to Zhou Tao's community. But Zhou Tao has moved out of the old community. After all, there is no elevator and the security is not good. Now that she is famous, it is easy for illegitimate children to follow her home in such a community. It is really unsafe. The car stopped below her building. Lu Wenzhou looked up and saw that there were no lights on the floor where she lived. He sat in the car and waited until 12 o'clock, but there were no lights. After all, he couldn't help it anymore, asked Wang Hui for his cell phone, and made a call. The ringing sounded for a while, and then the call was answered, with a slightly nasal voice. It seemed that someone answered the call in a daze in his sleep, and he probably didn't know who made the call. "Well, who is it?" she asked. Lu Wenzhou didn't dare to speak for a moment, fearing that she would hang up the phone when she heard his voice. He didn't speak for a long time. Zhou Tao looked at the caller ID and suddenly lost all sleep. She didn't know why Lu Wenzhou would call her in the middle of the night. He asked thoughtfully, "Is something okay?" "I'm downstairs, can you go up and have a glass of water?" The question was a bit humble. The other side replied to him, "I am no longer in that community, I have moved to another community." Lu Wenzhou was speechless. Where is the new community? Zhou Tao smiled, "It seems there is no need to tell you. We should have no contact with each other in the future, and Mr. Lu does not need to know where I live." She returned all the pain he had given her so neatly. Only then did he realize that she had been in this state of mind before. He despised his former self more and more. Just treat it as an ordinary friend. There is no need for us to be ordinary friends, Lu Wenzhou, there is no need for that. She is very direct, she is always soft on the outside and strong on the inside. Because he had been drinking, Lu Wenzhou's voice and posture softened. He whispered, "Don't do this to me, okay?" Zhou Tao sat on the bed, with the bedside lamp shining on her. She rested her elbows on her bulging knees and tangled her fingers in her long hair. She let out a long sigh. "Lu Wenzhou, what did I do to you?" Lu Wenzhou choked and couldn't speak. For a long time, both of them were silent. He spoke first, "I'm disturbing your sleep. I'll hang up first." He hung up the phone and then threw it down. The phone hit the car window, and the hearts of the 2 people in the front row trembled. Wang Hui thought, "Second master, how many mobile phones are you going to scrap tonight?" Zhou Tao on the other end put down her phone, sighed, and sat holding her knees for a while, looking at the rain outside the window, her eyes a little dazed, and for a while, she lost sleep. This is a high-rise apartment, by the river. She sat on the bay window. She could see far away. The light seemed to be shining on the horizon. The rain was hitting the window. She played a song and listened to it. In fact, she can also write songs, lyrics, and music. She wrote some songs when she was in college, but none of them were released on the market. It was her personal hobby. Only this one, Embrace, was written by her to Lu Wenzhou. She and he had just married at that time, and she was still full of expectations for their married life. She wrote this song with great interest, went to the recording studio to record a demo, and wanted to play it to him. This time, I never got the chance. After a long time, the 2 of them returned to the Lu family mansion together. Due to the old man's request, they lived in the same room. She took out her mobile phone and played the song for him. His expression was very calm, without any ups and downs. After listening, she asked him if it sounded good to him. He said it was not nice. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1064. You could hear the lyrics, he was the one who wrote them, and you could tell the voice was her, Zhou Tao. He said it didn't sound good, and he had no intention of listening to it a second time. The light in Zhou Tao's eyes went out. He personally extinguished all her expectations and now asked her not to do this to him. Is it always so unfair in the world of love? Lu Wenzhou returned to his residence, sobered up from the alcohol, and suddenly thought of the song Zhou Tao asked him to listen to 2 years ago. It seemed like she sang it herself. His cell phone was broken and could not be turned on. He asked the servant to bring a mobile phone in, then inserted his own mobile phone card into it, and searched the internet. There were no songs by Zhou Tao on the internet, and she had not released any songs. Lu Wenzhou remembered that she seemed to have posted it in the circle of friends. He logged into WeChat and turned to her homepage. She didn't have many posts in her circle of friends. After scrolling for a few minutes, he found the song from 2 years ago. Embrace. He gently clicked the play button, and her soft, gentle, and clear voice ran into his heart without warning. Every word in the lyrics is about him, her longing for him, her love for him, and the heartbeat of a young girl when she is pregnant. Because of him, she wants to become better. She cherished it all so much that she wrote it all into songs. How did he answer her then? She carefully asked him if he was nice, and what did he say? Memories came flooding back to him, and he remembered that it was not nice of him to say that she had looked at him with a smile, but her smile faded away little by little. Doesn't it sound good? She says. Yes, it doesn't sound good. He said. I wrote this to you, she mustered up the courage to say so. Don't do anything like this again, he told her ruthlessly. Lu Wenzhou stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, listening to the song over and over again. There was also a comment from Lu Su under that friend's circle. Lu Su, written for my second brother. Zhou Tao replied to Lu Su, yes, smiley face. She was still very playful and happy at that time, but it was he who personally destroyed her former self. He stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window for half the night, listening to the song in the middle of the night. Such a clean voice, a warm voice, and spiritual lyrics, how he kept his eyes open and told lies that were unpleasant to listen to. He felt her heartache in the past, trapped in the cage he had made himself, and hesitated to move forward. Zhou Tao didn't sleep well at night, and suddenly she dreamed about what happened before, intermittently and unconnected. When she got up in the morning, her head hurt. Went to the company, and Wen Qiao happened to be there too. When will Song Yuchen's MV be shot? Zhou Tao made 2 cups of coffee, brought 1 cup to Wen Qiao, took a sip, and looked at the warm sunshine outside. In 2 days, I will go to Kenting to shoot. Do you have a Hong Kong and Macau pass? Yes, I've been there before. Wen Qiao, Song Yuchen likes you. I made it clear to him that I will not fall in love within 3 years. He said that he likes him. I don't have to accept it. I only use this as a job. If many people in the circle like me, then I will not have any job. Why don't you answer? Wen Qiao nodded, you are right, I also support you to accept this MV. This song is very nice, and most importantly, it is very popular. Not only Song Yuchen's fans find it nice, but also the general public. This it's very important. Kenting is beautiful over there and it's summer again. You go and play for a few more days. I worked hard promoting the new drama some time ago. I'll give you a break. Thanks. There will be an exclusive interview tomorrow. It's from the official media. You and Junling are invited to participate. You. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1065. Zhou Tao shrugged nonchalantly, of course I went. I injured my foot before. I will definitely go for this kind of interview. Well, let's go. There is no interview script. The official media are aloof and don't give scripts in advance. You have to pay attention to adapting to the situation. If you encounter a question you don't want to answer, just say haha and don't be embarrassed. Yeah, I know. The next day in the recording studio of Zhongxin Club, Zhou Tao saw Junling. Her smile was impeccable, she shook hands with him and called Teacher Jun. Teacher Jun. What an unfamiliar title. Junling also felt a little dazed after hearing this, and he hated his duplicity even more. Why was he so arrogant and why didn't he admit that he liked her? Everything today is really your own fault. Is your foot healed? Zhou Tao smiled, thank you, Teacher Jun, for your concern. Everything is fine. Junling wanted to say something else, but Zhou Tao said, go into the studio, don't keep the host waiting. Many words were stuck in her throat. Junling forced a smile and followed her into the shed. The recording hadn't started yet, but the host seemed to know Junling. He smiled and exchanged greetings, you seem a little haggard. Is it hard to do promotional work recently? Junling waved his hand, no, it's not hard. Zhou Tao stood aside quietly, listening to their conversation. She had always had a very calm temperament. Although she was very beautiful, when she wasn't talking, people would often not notice her presence. The staff carrying the filming equipment passed by her. Just as she was about to dodge, the host said Junling instinctively stretched out his hand to block her, and gave her a hand with the other hand. Zhou Tao's face was a little stiff, and she immediately leaned closer to the host's sister. There were too many staff coming and going here, and anyone could take a video in the dark and post it online, but they couldn't tell clearly. And even if Junling didn't pull her, she could avoid the impact of the shooting equipment on her own, and he really didn't have to do this. The host's sister is in her early 40s. She is considered a senior in the industry and a big sister. She is relatively affectionate towards a little girl like Zhou Tao. Seeing that her face is a little pale, she also knows about the scandal between Junling and her some time ago. Then reached out to hold Zhou Tao in his arms, and pointed at the staff member carrying the equipment, Dafa, be careful, you almost hit someone, little girl. The staff member who called Dafa quickly said hello, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Zhou Tao nodded, it's okay. Junling's hands were empty for a moment, and his heart felt empty as well. The air conditioning in the studio was on full blast. When the two were being interviewed, Junling saw Zhou Tao occasionally gently rubbing her arms. The interview lasted for an hour, and there was a break in the middle. Junling walked up to Huang Xian and said a few words, and Huang Xian immediately ran aside. Next came the second half of the interview. Under the camera, there was no quarrel between the two, and they were even talking and laughing. This is the quality an artist should have. As soon as the interview ended, Sister Nan patted Zhou Tao on the shoulder. After the interview, she really liked Zhou Tao. He was generous and thoughtful. In the past, some artists were empty-headed and what they said was so hollow and boring. She wanted to yawn. This girl is nice. As soon as it was over, I saw a takeaway guy coming in from the studio door, carrying 2 large bags of stuff, which seemed to be drinks. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1066. Junling brought a glass and handed it to Zhou Tao, you can drink some. Seeing that other staff members had taken it, Zhou Tao took it over. The cup had hot cocoa written on it. It was hot. The moment his palm touched the cup, he felt a warm current rush through his body. She nodded politely, "Thank you, Teacher Jun." Junling looked stern, "You're welcome." In such a large studio, with nearly 100 staff, there will naturally be some meddlers, so the photos of Junling grabbing Zhou Tao and handing her a drink were quickly posted online. These two are popular traffic nowadays. If you just take some photos and post them online, they are all K-pies. Sure enough, the two quickly became a hot topic. This photo is so clear that you can even see the deep affection in Junling's eyes. Before the news on the internet had time to ferment, host sister Nan sent a photo of herself and Zhou Tao. Song Nan, don't cause trouble with the marketing account. Both juniors are good kids. Sister Nan has always been an outspoken elder sister in the circle. After she said this, the comments on the internet naturally failed to ferment. Moreover, based on the angle of the photo, Sister Nan quickly found out who had taken the secret photo. This kind of behavior of stealing materials and selling photos to marketing accounts is extremely despised in the industry, and the staff member was soon fired by Sister Nan. But there are still photos on the internet, and the biggest role of these photos is probably to add trouble to Lu Wenzhou. And it wasn't just these photos that gave him trouble. Because within 2 days, Zhou Tao and Song Yuchen went to Kenting. Song Yuchen's station sister and Zhou Tao's station sister both went to take photos for Reuters. Because the photos were taken on location, many photos appeared on the internet. This MV was shot of a couple. The two were holding hands, riding the waves, and embracing each other on the blue seaside, which was extremely romantic. When the sky darkened and the gorgeous sunset glowed, they lit a bonfire and sat cross-legged on the beach like the Milky Way. The sea breeze ruffled her long hair, and Song Yuchen also had deep feelings in her eyes. A love as deep as Junling's. Lu Wenzhou then used his third cell phone in the past few days. Many people are thinking about his ex-wife. This is just on the surface. I heard that Zhou Tao has many boyfriend fans, and I heard from Lu Su 2 days ago that Zhou Tao became the first female star voted by college students as the one they most want to marry. Mr. Lu almost collapsed on the spot. When Wang Hui heard the noise, he hurried into his room and saw his second master's mobile phone lying pitifully under the wall with the screen broken. He quickly picked up the phone and pressed it. It didn't light up and it was broken. His second master also spends too much time on his cell phone. Second master, what's wrong with you? Lu Wenzhou felt his head hurt, so he lit a cigarette and held it between his fingers. Give me a different phone. Wang Hui, I'll get it for you right away. Just as he was about to go out, Lu Wenzhou called him down, come here and listen to me. Wang Hui felt a layer of sweat on his back. Is the second master going to confess his feelings? Can he listen? If the second master regrets it afterwards, will he be in danger? But he still stood next to the sofa. Sit down, Lu Wenzhou said calmly. I am not tired. Lu Wenzhou didn't force him. There was only one floor lamp on in the room, and the light was dim, which made his facial features look profound. Wang Hui thought, in fact, his second master's face was really hard to find anything wrong with. Standing next to Zhou Tao, it would be really cool. A pair of beautiful people. It's really fate that makes people happy. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1067. It started to rain lightly outside as expected. Lu Wenzhou put out his half-smoked cigarette in the ashtray, covered his face with his hands, bowed his waist, and said in a low voice, Wang Hui, do I deserve this? Wang Hui felt very uncomfortable and quickly comforted him, don't say that, back then. If I really didn't like him back then, maybe I shouldn't have given in to the old man and married her against his will. Wang Hui sighed, isn't that the old man threatening you with his life in danger? Lu Wenzo blushed. I was wrong from the beginning. In those 2 years, I did a lot of wrong things to her. I made more mistakes on top of each other, so that there were too many things between us, right? There is no way I can save her. Wang Hui, that's not what you said. People's hearts are made of flesh. After all, Miss Zhou liked you before. If you realize your mistakes and actively try to make up for it, I think. Is there really hope? He seemed to place his only hope on Wang Hui. As long as Wang Hui said there was hope, he would have the motivation to go on. Wang Hui didn't dare to speak for a while. If it really didn't work out in the end, the second master would definitely blame him. If I say there is no hope, what are you going to do, second master? Will you give up on her? Lu Wenzo's eyes turned cold, so cold that Wang Hui was a little scared. He knew what the second master was thinking. He was blaming him. He couldn't even say nice words to make him happy. He was too useless as a bodyguard. You can go out. Lu Wenzo's voice returned to its usual calm and indifferent tone. Wang Hui knew that his second master had recovered from his intermittent confusion and there was no need for him to explain anything, so he hurriedly left the room. Lu Wenzo smoked a whole pack of cigarettes that night, stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, wrote on the window with his fingers, and asked again and again, Zhou Tao, what should I do, what on earth should I do? It was still midsummer, a long summer, and Wen Qiao went to Shen's house again. Uncle Chen asked her to wait downstairs. Wen Qiao's brows twitched slightly. What's wrong? Isn't Chen Yan up yet? Uncle Chen smiled. The young master is in your husband's study. He probably has something to talk about. Suddenly there was an angry scolding from upstairs. It was Shen Qiuazhong's voice. Wen Qiao recalled the previous scene where Shen Qiuazhong kicked Shen Yan angrily and frowned. Was it domestic violence again? It's strange that children who grow up in this kind of atmosphere have normal mental abilities. Does your husband often scold Shen Yan? Wen Qiao asked bluntly, but Uncle Chen was startled and said quickly, it's nothing. Wen Qiao pointed to his ear, you think I'm deaf? Your husband's voice is so loud. Uncle Chen ignored her and seemed too lazy to explain to her. Wen Qiao pressed his temples. Shen Yan was 9 years old. He grew up in such a family. It was strange that he had a normal personality. Did Shen Yan get into trouble again? Uncle Chen, no. Wen Qiao frowned. Uncle Chen said, Miss Wen, you are just a tutor. Don't overstep your bounds. You should take care of what you should take care of. Don't ask too much about what you shouldn't. Wen Qiao understood that this butler was trying to protect his husband's reputation. After a while, the door to the study room opened, and Uncle Chen said, Miss Wen can go up. Wen Qiao went up to the second floor and met Shen Qiuazhong. The remaining anger on Shen Qiuazhong's face had not had time to dissipate. When he saw Wen Qiao, he turned a blind eye. He thought she was transparent and went directly to the third floor. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1068. Wen Qiao followed Shen Yan into his room. The little man entered the room like a madman, ran to the desk, held a dart, and struck randomly on the wooden table. The harsh sound made Wen Qiao frown. She walked over, grabbed Shen Yan's wrist, and asked, Did your dad beat you? Shen Yan stiffened, No, my dad won't hit me. Wen Qiao looked at the distinct slap marks on his face. He had obviously been beaten but didn't say anything about it. He also remembered that when he mentioned that he wanted to tell his father to fire her, he had no resentment towards his father. Come to think of it, his father is still a majestic presence in his eyes, and he probably feels that he deserves to be punished for doing something wrong. This child's temperament is already very conflicted. If things continue like this, it will indeed easily lead to big mistakes. Murder and breaking the law are possible. I see there is a horse riding stable in the back of your house. Let's go horse riding today. I don't go. Wen Qiao crossed his arms. Do you think I used a question? I said it in a commanding tone. Okay. Change clothes and go to the race course. Shen Yan was angry. I don't like riding horses. I don't care if you like it or not, put on your equestrian clothes and follow me to the race course. I am your tutor, not your nanny. You should listen to me, not me to you. Shen Yan cursed a few times, but Wen Qiao didn't hear it clearly. Then he saw the child cursing and going to the closet to get clothes before entering the bathroom. Today is still a hot day of 38, and the staff of the race course are hiding in the shade of the trees and lazing around. After all, it is impossible for the gentlemen and young masters to come to ride horses in this weather. Unexpectedly, the next second I saw a young girl walking over with their young master. Several people immediately cheered up. Just walking to the race course, Shen Yan felt like he was sweating profusely and out of breath. Looking at Wen Qiao again, this woman didn't have a blushing face or a beating heart, as if nothing was wrong. The little kid was so angry that he almost stamped his feet. Wen Qiao introduced himself to the staff. I am Shen Yan's tutor. I brought him here to ride horses. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, the temperature had climbed to 36 degrees, and even the air was hot. The staff member was wearing a straw hat, and sweat was still rolling down his temples. While wiping the sweat, he said, Teacher Wen, the weather is so hot, and our young master is so precious, I'm afraid he won't be able to bear it if we continue riding like this. Wen Qiao smiled, it's okay, his body is just too weak, so he has to exercise. Shen Yan said secretly, I think you are here to torture me. After saying this, he regretted it. He used to torture his tutor. When did the roles become reversed? Wen Qiao wore a sun hat on his head. Whatever you think, I, as a tutor, am also responsible for training your physical fitness. I turned around and asked the staff to bring out 2 horses, one tall and one slightly shorter, suitable for children to ride. Wen Qiao put on Shen Yan's knee pads and helmet. Mount the horse. Shen Yan originally wanted to say he didn't know how to ride, but that would be embarrassing in front of Wen Qiao. He could only get on the horse in the 36-degree heat. Wen Qiao also got on another horse. If you think it won't work anymore, just tell me and I will stop it. Shen Yan looked stubborn, pursed his lips tightly, held the reins, and jumped out first. Fortunately, there were trees in the race course, and the heat wave was somewhat blocked. Wen Qiao looked at his watch and estimated Shen Yan's physical fitness. With this intensity of exercise and this sultry weather, he could last for up to an hour. After an hour, if the kid hasn't begged for mercy, he must stop, otherwise he will suffer from heat stroke. Shen Yan was born into a wealthy family. He rode horses, archery, swimming and fencing, and excelled in all kinds of sports. He thought that even if Wen Qiao could ride a horse, his equestrian skills would definitely be mediocre and not as good as someone like him who started practicing riding and shooting at the age of 4 or 5, so he suggested, let's compete. Wen Qiao almost laughed, compared to what? It's about who can run across this hill faster. Wen Qiao narrowed his eyes, are you serious? Shen Yan, don't you dare. Joe, I'm so brave. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1069. Wen Qiao coughed lightly, kid, don't you want to watch the horse racing? Shen Yan rolled his eyes at her, I don't look at that. Wen Qiao shrugged, okay, if I win, what will be the prize? Shen Yan looked disdainful, we'll wait until you win. Wen Qiao tightened his grip on the reins, then let me teach you, the little brat, a lesson, and let you know the cruelty of this society." Shen Yan snorted softly. "Start." As soon as it was over, the two horses jumped out at the same time. Wen Qiao was not riding fast, but Shen Yan took the lead first. Wen Qiao smiled. After all, she was in her 20s. Facing a 9-year-old child, she would not let him go first. After one lap, the staff at the racecourse said she bullied the small ones. "This hill is so big that it will take at least half an hour to complete the entire circuit." Soon, Shen Yan's back was no longer visible, and both of them were followed by racecourse staff to prevent any accidents. The staff member behind Wen Qiao said, "Teacher Wen, don't you dare to ride too fast. But safety comes first." As soon as he finished speaking, Wen Qiao suddenly swung the riding whip, and the high horse suddenly ran forward. The staff was shocked. "Teacher Wen, safety first, don't be too fast." But his movements, posture, and level of bravery were all like those of a professional athlete. The staff was shocked and rushed to catch up, but they couldn't catch up. Shen Yan, who had left Wen Qiao far away, looked back and felt proud. He was indeed more powerful. Wen Qiao was really humiliating himself and wanted to torture him. Still a long way to go. The big trees in the mountains are lush and green, with occasional berries falling. The wind in the mountains is not cool, and the sweat rolls down from the forehead and flies in the air. Suddenly, Shen Yan heard the sound of horse hooves behind him, and looked back in horror. Wen Qiao had caught up. He felt that he had slacked off because he was ahead, so he immediately clamped the horse's back and waved the whip in his hand. But for some damn reason, the sound of horse hooves from behind was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, Wen Qiao was on par with him. Wen Qiao looked at her with a smile, and his voice was mixed in the wind between the mountains and fields. "Kid, sister, it took me so long for you to get here." Shen Yan's cheeks bulged. "Stop bragging. If you can't compete with me, just let me go." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. "Then let me show you my sister's true power." She raised her riding whip vigorously, and the horse suddenly jumped half a body, then Shen Yan's horse, and then the distance between them gradually widened. Shen Yan really tried his best, but he couldn't catch up with her. He was so far behind that he could only worry in his heart. The staff behind him reminded him loudly, "Young master, do what you can, pay attention to safety, pay attention to safety." Shen Yan wanted to catch up with Wen Qiao at first, but after a while, Wen Qiao's horse turned a corner on the mountain road and disappeared. He couldn't catch up, and he was so angry that he lost the desire to compete. When he returned to the racecourse, Wen Qiao and the staff sat under the big tree and ate watermelon. Wen Qiao whistled at him, "Kid, what's taking you so long? I've been resting for a long time." Shen Yan looked like he had been fished out of the river. His body was covered with sweat, he was panting, his chest was so tight that he couldn't breathe. The staff helped him dismount, and he pushed the staff member away and walked to the shade of the tree. "When did you arrive?" "Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1070. Wen Qiao held a big piece of watermelon. "Do you want to hear the truth?" Shen Yan stared at her and said nothing. "Wen Qiao, it's about 15 minutes. At the beginning, he lost a lot to him, and he was 15 minutes ahead of him. Even if he was 9 years old, he still lost a lot. He just stood there sulking. He was tired and thirsty, but he didn't want to talk." Wen Qiao picked up another piece of watermelon and handed it to him. "Would you like this iced watermelon?" Shen Yan slapped it away with one hand and the watermelon fell on the grass. "I won't eat it." "Especially vicious." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. "If you don't eat, you will fall down." "Do you still expect her to beg him to eat?" "Non-existent." Shen Yan didn't expect that she would stop asking after asking once. Everyone was eating watermelon, and he was the only one standing aside. While Wen Qiao was eating, he said that it was so sweet, ice cold, and delicious. Every time she said a word, Shen Yan would give her a look. Wen Qiao turned a blind eye, finished a large piece of watermelon, threw the rind into the basket, and gently touched his belly. "Where is the bathroom?" The staff pointed it out to her, and Wen Qiao held up the straw hat on her head and walked to the bathroom. The staff of the racecourse waited for her to leave and quickly gave Shen Yan a piece of watermelon. "Young master, eat some quickly. The weather is too hot. You sweated a lot just now. It will be very difficult if you don't replenish some sugar and water prone to heat stroke." Shen Yan wanted face not only in front of Wen Qiao, but also in front of outsiders, but he was too thirsty, and Wen Qiao was not around, so he quickly took the watermelon and took a quick bite. It was so sweet that he ate it. He was in a hurry, for fear that Wen Qiao would come out of the bathroom in the middle of the meal and catch him eating watermelon, so where would he put his face? Fortunately, Wen Qiao spent a long time in the bathroom. Wen Qiao had already recovered. He was leaning against the bathroom sink and playing with his mobile phone. He counted the time and went out when it was almost time. The little guy Shen Yan failed to live up to expectations. He ate too hastily and choked on the last bite. The staff was patting him on the back. Wen Qiao was in a dilemma, and had no choice but to walk under the big tree. There was still watermelon juice at the corner of Shen Yan's mouth. It was true that the scene of the crime was not even cleaned. Wen Qiao glanced at him, and Shen Yan felt relieved, but his temper was quite fierce. "What are you looking at?" Wen Qiao narrowed his eyes. "You are my student and my defeated general, why don't you try to be more cruel?" Shen Yan didn't dare to speak. This woman seems to be very tough, and she probably can't beat her. All the hidden weapons he designed can't escape her notice. She can't fight openly and can only fight with wits and courage. But it seems that Wen Qiao is not stupid. Whether it is a battle of wits or courage, he is no match for her. Shen Yan was so angry that his teeth itched. How could he lose? He must find a way to drive Wen Qiao away. It was noon and the two of them had lunch at the race course. A large dining table made of old elm wood was placed under a large locust tree. A group of rough men ate with Wen Qiao and Shen Yan. Wen Qiao chatted with them about equestrianism, and then they learned that she was the owner of the number 85 horse god of war at the previous horse racing meeting in Haikan. Moreover, the jockey was injured in that game, and she personally participated in the battle. She is a jockey club champion. Shen Yan almost choked on his rice ball and glanced at Wen Qiao. Wen Qiao flipped up her long hair. "You don't have to admire me too much." Shen Yan rolled his eyes. "Whoever admires you, isn't he a horse racing champion? What's so great about it? Don't you know that arrogant soldiers will be defeated?" Wen Qiao chuckled. "Really? I only know that the winner is king. If you lose today, you have to promise me something."